Hi everyone, I hope you are having a wonderful day. We are back on the Kaplan chapter. So, we did the chapter 4 flashcard reviews yesterday, and now we are going to answer some of the questions. You know, the 15 assessment questions on the Kaplan chapter. So, let's start with that. First question is resting membrane potential depends on A. Differential distribution of ions across the axon membrane. 2. The opening of voltage-gated calcium channels. 3. Active transport of ions across the membrane. Okay, so we have these three options and we choose between those. So let's go one by one. So we know resting membrane potential depends on the differential distribution of ions across the axon membrane, and that sounds correct to me. The opening of voltage gated calcium channels, so that is on the for the terminal, like axon terminal, and that is for when you want to transfer the action potential to the next synaptic neuron, so to the postsynaptic neuron. So the resting membrane potential is not dependent on the opening of the voltage-gated calcium channels. That's for the action potential. What is it called? Transmission, or when you want to just send it to the next postsynaptic neuron. Then the third option is the active transport of ions across the membrane. So active transport is against the concentration gradient, and that's when you use ATP. And the only time that we use the ATP is when you want to send the sodiums to the outside of the cell, to the extracellular environment, and you want to bring back the potassiums in. So it's against the concentration gradient, and this makes the inside of the cell more negative. So it does actually depend, the resting membrane potential does depend on that. So I would go honestly with 1 and 3. So I would choose C. All of the following are associated with the myelin sheath except faster conduction of nerve impulses. Yes, so that's not the answer. Nodes of Ranvier forming gaps along the axon. That's also true for myelin sheaths. Increased magnitude of the potential difference during an action potential. I think it's about the speed, not the magnitude. So probably that's the answer. Saltatory conduction of action potentials. That's true. It's like a jumping kind of conduction, transferring of the action potentials, which makes it faster. Which of the following is true with regard to the action potential? So so which one is true? We want to make sure that we are choosing that. All hyperpolarized stimuli will be carried to the axon terminal without a decrease in size. The size of the action potential is proportional to the size of the stimulus that produced it. That's not true. Increasing the intensity of the depolarization increases the size of the impulse. There's the all or nothing principle. So once an action potential is triggered, an impulse of a given magnitude and speed is produced. That sounds true. So this is the all or nothing principle. Which of the following correctly describes a difference between nerves and tracts? Nerves are seen in the central nervous system. Tracts are seen in the peripheral nervous system. I think it's the opposite. Nerves have cell bodies in nuclei. Tracts have cell bodies in ganglia. Nerves may, or actually, nerves may carry more than one type of information. Tracts can only carry one type of information. I think it's also the opposite. Nerves contain only one neuron. Tracts contain many neurons. I think that's about the answer. And what was wrong with B? Nerves have cell bodies in nuclei. Tracts have cell bodies in ganglia. Yeah, the nuclei and ganglia, we didn't go too deep about it, so we can study these two. Which of the following accurately describes sensory neurons? Sensory neurons are afferent and enter the spinal cord on the dorsal side. Seems right to me. Sensory neurons are efferent. No. Sensory neurons are afferent, enter the spinal cord on the ventral side. I think this is the answer. When a sensory neuron receives a stimulus that brings it to threshold, it will do all of the following except. So when the sensory neuron receives a stimulus that brings it to threshold, it'll do all of them except, so which one is false? Become depolarized? Yes, it does become depolarized. Transduce the stimulus to an action potential? Yes. Inhibit the spread of the action potential to other sensory neurons? Cause the release of neurotransmitters onto cells in the central nervous system. So we're talking about sensory neurons here and releasing neurotransmitters onto cells in the central nervous system. I think before that there's the so cells, like, is it interneurons it's referring to in the central nervous system? So either the spinal cord or the brain inhibit the spread of the action potential to other sensory neurons. I would go with D being false over C, but we'll see. When the potential across the axon membrane is more negative than the normal resting potential, the neuron is said to be in a state of. So when the potential across the axon membrane is more negative than the normal resting potential, it's hyperpolarized, so state of hyperpolarization. Which of the following statements concerning the somatic division of the peripheral nervous system is incorrect? Its pathways innervate skeletal muscle. This is correct. Its pathways are usually voluntary. That is also correct. Some of its pathways are referred to as reflex arcs. That's about. Its pathways always involve more than two neurons. It's good to know which of those actually are facts, between C and D. But what's happening here? Yeah, so I will go with, reflex arcs. I think that's with the autonomic system. So, yeah. I will go with that. Yep. Which of the following is a function of the parasympathetic nervous system? Increasing blood sugar during periods of stress? No. Dilating the pupils? No, that's sympathetic to enhance vision. Increasing oxygen delivery to muscles? No, I think that's also sympathetic. Decreasing heart rate and blood pressure. That's about it. Which of the following neurotransmitters is used in the ganglia of both the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems? So we know that acetylcholine is used a lot. So it's only norepinephrine and epinephrine, I think, in the CNS of sympathetic. We had it here. So, sorry, it's post-ganglionic stuff. So it's the neurotransmitter. So epinephrine and norepinephrine are for sympathetic for sure, but it's in the postganglionic, not in the preganglionic. And do we have ganglia here? Not to confuse it with glial cells, right? Yeah, we need to study like about ganglia stuff, Okay. In which neural structure are ribosomes primarily located? Oh, we're talking about ribosomes. So these are in the nuclei, the nucleus, right? Not in the axon, not in the axon hillock. Soma, which is the cytoplasm, and dendrites. I would go with dendrites. So the soma are cytoplasms, and ribosomes are. We know we make the ribosomes in the nucleus, right? And then they are on the endoplasmic reticulum. But dendrites are actually, like the stretches. I take my word back. I think it's soma, since the rough ER is also there. So remove highlight, soma. An autoimmune disease attacks the voltage-gated calcium channels in the synaptic terminal of an excitatory neuron. What is a likely symptom of this condition? Spastic paralysis and inability to relax the muscles. Sounds like it. I mean, if you actually attack this, like it's not working anymore, you don't have the calcium coming in, so you don't have the excitation anymore. So flaccid paralysis, inability to contract the muscles, that sounds about it. Inability to reuptake neurotransmitters once released. Retrograde flow of action potentials. Yeah, I think it's B. A neuron only fires an action potential if multiple presynaptic cells release neurotransmitters onto the dendrites of the neuron. This is an example of. So the neuron is only firing action potentials if multiple presynaptic cells release neurotransmitters. So if you have multiple neurotransmitters, it's a spatial summation, not a temporal, because temporal is the timing is different, but the spatial is like multiple presynaptic ones. So South Story is about the myelin sheds and the nodes of Ranvier, feedback loop, inhibitory transmission, a disease results in the death of Schwann cells, Schwann in Pepsi PNS, right? So these these are myelin. They create myelin sheets around the neurons in PNS. Which portion of the nervous system is not likely to be affected? Central nervous system, because that's for the PNS, right? Somatic, autonomic, parasympathetic, they're all in the PNS. A surgeon accidentally clips a dorsal root ganglion during a spinal surgery. What is a likely consequence of this error? Loss of reflexes at that level. So we have a dorsal root ganglion lesion, and the dorsal root is like the sensation, so loss of sensation at that level, loss of reflexes at that level. That also sounds true. So maybe 1 and 2, but maybe it might be 2 only. So not cognitive function, because the sensation is not related to that. Okay, let's check the answers. Let's write our answers and do the whole labor that we have to do before checking the answers. It's also good to actually be able to have this somewhere in like a Google sheet that you can share with stuff like that. So we chose, for 1 we chose C. So we have 1C assess Qs. B4 for 2 Jesus. This happened again, eh? What did we choose for 2? All the following melon sheath. I think we chose C, right? For 3 we chose which of the following is true with regard to the action potential. Kind of action potential is D. For 4, to the following. Clearly describes the difference between nerves and tracks. Last one, right? D again. Okay, let's actually record our answers first. A, D, B. A, D, B. What's for 8? C, D, A, B. C, D, A, B. For 12, you have B, B, A, C. B, B, A, C. Okay, cool. Let's now again many. We want the answers and questions to be here so we don't have to go back and forth between the end and beginning of the chapter. Let's see. I'm gonna sing a song while I'm doing this. I just can't get you out of my head. Oh, your stuff is all I care about. I just can't get you out of my head. Oh boy, you care soon about. La la la, la 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 la. Okay, we have them right here. So 1 CCDC, CCDD. Oh, my dear question 4 CCDC. Okay. ACBDD, ACBDD. This one is wrong. Question 10. A triple B AC. A triple B AC. Amazing. This is our best chapter so far. Okay, let's get down to these questions. This might actually be pretty quick and fast, so we can actually I wanted to it's 12%, so the chances of getting questions from this, like 2 or 3 is actually high. So yeah, let's get to the explanations. Come on, don't play with me. Might be easier to go here. Yes. Okay. Ependymal cells line the ventricles of the brain and produce cerebrospinal fluid, which physically supports the brain and serves as a shock absorber. Ooh, CSF acts as a shock absorber. We might need to make some flashcards out of these, right? Like, it wasn't there for, like, some of these stuff, these things wasn't there. So, yeah. Okay, so we got the first question right. I'll just read over these answers quickly. Let me sip on some water beforehand. Okay, let's do this. Where are we? Okay. Question first. Differential resting membrane. What does resting membrane potential depends on? So we got this right. The polarization of the neuron at rest is the result of an uneven distribution of ions between the inside and outside of the cell. This difference is achieved through the active pumping of ions into and out of the neuron using the sodium potassium ATPase. So this is a pump, and this pump is like active transport. You're using ATP, and voltage gated calcium channels are important in the nerve terminal, where the influx of calcium triggers the fusion of vesicles containing neurotransmitters with the membrane, but not in maintaining resting membrane potential. So both the ATPase active transport, of ions across the membrane, and so the pump, both the sodium potassium pump and the sodium potassium channels, that you have the differential potential across the membrane, the axon membrane. That's what matters, and creates this negative 70 millivolts voltage. Second question. All the following are associated with the myelin sheath except, we answered this question correctly, increased magnitude of the potential difference during action potential. Myelin is a white lipid containing material surrounding axons of many neurons in the central and peripheral nervous systems. So just let's stop here. And we have the spinal cord and the brain. So is the white matter on the outer layer of the brain or the spinal cord? We know it's a spinal cord. The outer layer of brain is gray, and so once you have that, I think we need a mnemonic, and I already have seen a couple of mnemonics on this. So yeah, we'll come back to this. It is arranged on the axon discontinuously. So yeah, it is. These myelin sheaths are arranged on the axon discontinuously, so it's not continuous. The gaps between the segments of myelin are called nodes of Ranvier. Eliminating B, myelin increases the conduction velocity by insulating segments of the axon so that the membrane is permeable to ions only at the nodes of Ranvier. So the ions not being permeable where the fat exists, that makes the conduction velocity to be increased. So you're not taking ions every single step of the every single segment of the axon. So you're just taking it in bouts, and that makes it faster. That's also how we want to do our work. So we just do it in a boom and bust fashion. You just work hard, velocity, and then you take a rest, and then do it again. Then we have the action potential, which jumps from node to node, a process known as the saltatory conduction. So jumping from node to node, like from one node of Ranvier to another node of Ranvier, that is a saltatory conduction. And again, these gaps between the nodes of Ranvier, that's where you are accepting ions, right? Those parts of the membrane, axonal membrane, are permeable to ions. Action potentials are often described as being all or nothing. The magnitude of the potential difference of an action potential is fixed regardless of the intensity of the stimulus. Thus, myelin does not affect the magnitude of the potential difference in an action potential. Great. Third question, we also answered that correctly. Before anything, I need to unbold these texts because that's how we do it. So we have we just bold the takeaways. Which of the following correctly describes the difference between nerves and tracts? We also did answer that correctly. As in the previous question, the action potential is often described as an all or nothing response. This means that whenever the threshold membrane potential is reached, an action potential with a consistent size and duration is produced. Neuronal information is... That was not the third question. Was it? Second, third? Here we go. Third question was about action potentials. So we did not answer the fourth question correctly about the nerves and tracts. So it was actually C. Let's go on that one. So this one is again all or nothing. No, don't do this to me. Okay, give me a second to fix this iBook glitch. I think I have to close it. Yeah, let me close it. Okay, wait a second. Something's happening. Let's go. Okay, we're oh no, we don't want to be here. We want to be somewhere else. We want to be on page okay, gotta close it, right? Yes, I gotta close it. Don't mind the other books that I am reading. Like I want to just be able to open my freaking chapter questions. Let's be patient. Everything's going to be all right. Our time is not gold. Our time is at the expense of technological glitch, so don't worry ever about it. Wait, I skipped it and okay, amazing. So yeah, neuronal information is coded by the frequency and number of action potential, not the size of the action potential. And making the correct answer, hyperpolarizing inhibitor signals are not transmitted to the nerve terminal. That is interesting. Eliminating A. Let's read that again. All hyperpolarized stimuli will be carried to the axon terminal without a decrease in size. No, these are not. So there is a takeaway from that actually. Takeaway. Hyperpolarized stimuli don't reach axon terminal. So neuronal information is coded by the frequency and number of action potentials. Hyperpolarizing inhibitory signals are not transmitted to the nerve terminal. So hyperpolarized inhibitory signals don't reach axon terminal. Next question. The one that we answered wrong, incorrectly. Difference between nerves and tracts. Nerves are collections of neurons in the peripheral nervous system and may contain multiple types of information, sensory or motor. They contain cell bodies in ganglia. Tracts are collections of neurons in the central nervous system and contain only one type of information. They contain cell bodies in nuclei. Okay, wait a second. Nerves and tracts. Let's go. Oh, I actually can make freaking flashcards in these. What a stupid person I am. Jeez. Create deck. Assessment, cues, mistakes. Plus take aways. You can put all the mistakes and stuff here. Where did it go? Wait, where did it go? Am I blind? No, thank God. Details learned from tests. Oh, this is right here. Man, I create these and I don't even... I need to be more consistent, my boy. Let's be more consistent. This is what we want, right? More consistency. Okay. Add. We go here. So do or don't reach axon terminal. They don't. Next one. Okay. It's easier. No? I believe so. We also have it right here. So we can close this. Oh shoot. Apparently we cannot close that. So we just... No, I don't want updates. I just want my deck. So we can put this right here. We can put this right here. We can put this right here. And we are set to go. Okay. Nerves are collections of neurons in the here nerves are collections of neurons are collections in the PNS or CNS. And we cut that peripheral nervous system. Okay, add. Then we have may contain multiple types of. Oh, let's do. Can we do that? No, we can't. So where are how can we? Yeah, nerves are synonyms in the PNS, and so and may contain only one type or multiple only one or multiple types of information. So nerves, multiple, right? Sensory or motor. Sensory only or motor only or both. Both sensory or motor. And why is that, right? Because let's look at this thing right here. So we have our motor cortex, which is in the, I believe, frontal lobe, right? And there's also the example of the optic nerve and tract. So we have an anterior root of spinal nerve, and then we have spinal ganglion. The ganglion is like an posterior root of spinal nerve. So nerve is before the ganglion. And where's the tract? The tract is deep in, like it's in the dorsal tract or ventral tract, right? Anterior cortical spinal tract, and tract is going in the spinal, so it's different. The tract is going up and down. The nerves are going horizontally. Let's see something else here. So you can see the lateral corticospinal tract. You can see the anterior corticospinal tract. Cortical, is this coming from cortical? So cortical is like kidney, maybe. So we have pyramids here. We have the medulla, and also, this is the medulla of our brain. So bundle of axons, nerve versus tract, bundle of axons versus, so axon, dendrite body. This is the worst explanation of nerves and tracts. Lateral corticospinal tract. Again, we have tracts. I have no clue what this is. This is like your nerve tracts. What are we doing here? We have the pyramidal tracts. So I honestly need to download an anatomy book so that we do get the perfect drawings, the explanations for these. So again, corticospinal tract, rubrospinal tract, and spinothalamic tract. We have the dorsal column. Okay. So dorsal spinal cerebral tract. These are all tracts, ascending tracts and descending tracts. Okay. Now let's ask ChatGPT. What are tracts and what is nerves and what is their differences, similarities? Tracts and nerves are both components of the nervous system, but they serve different functions and are found in different parts of the body. So the only similarity between them is being component of the nervous system, but different functions. So tracts are bundles of nerve fibers, axons, within the central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord. So let's add a flashcard. So for the tag here we have nerves. Okay. Next one. So what are bundles of nervous fibers? Bundles of nerve fibers. Axons. Within CNS. And these are nerves. I'm so sorry, that was tracts. So nerves are PNS, right? Okay, I apologize for my lack of organizations and preparations. Here we are. These are tracts. Function. Tracts facilitate communication between different areas of the CNS. Okay, so different areas of the spinal cord or the brain. They allow for transmission of signals such as sensory information or motor commands between the brain and the spinal cord or between different regions of the brain. The composition of tracts consists of myelinated or unmyelinated axons, and they are often organized based on the type of information they carry, like sensory or motor, and their specific functions. The location of nerves. Nerves are structures found in the peripheral nervous system, PNS, which includes all the neural structures outside the CNS. So let me just give me a bit of time. I'm moving my screens to my desk. Okay. let's continue. So nerves are structures found in the peripheral PNS, yes, including neural structures outside the CNS. That's what it includes. This includes nerves that extend from the spinal cord, spinal nerves, and nerves that emerge directly from the brain, cranial nerves. That's why we have spinal nerves and cranial nerves. So that's their location. The function is transmitting signals, communication to and from the CNS. So they communicate between to and from the CNS. So it's between CNS and PNS. They carry sensory information from the peripheral organs and tissues to the CNS, afferent or sensory nerves, and convey motor commands from the CNS to muscles and glands, efferent or motor nerves. So sensory information from peripheral organs and tissues to CNS, and that's afferent or sensory nerves, and conveying motor commands from CNS to muscles and glands, that's efferent or motor nerves. So the composition, it consists of bundles of nerve fibers, which can include both sensory and motor axons. They are often surrounded by connective tissue layers that provide support and protection. So they're surrounded by connective. So the tracts are within, so those are axon, axon fibers, nerve fibers, axons, in the central nervous system, so spinal cord, brain, and the function is transmission between the CNS, between different areas of CNS, and it's both sensory or motor signals, commands, and it could be between different regions of the brain as well. So we have tracts in our brain, and they contain myelinated or unmyelinated axons. I'm assuming these are, like what do you call it? These are electrical neurons, but nerves could be also chemical. So those are electrochemical, perhaps. But tracts are electrical only. So the differences, tracts are found within CNS, but the nerves are in PNS. And so nerves are attached to your PNS, and the function tracks primarily facilitate communication between different regions of CNS, but nerves transmit signals from CNS, into CNS, connecting it with the rest of the body. And tracks consist of axons within the CNS, while nerves include both sensory and motor axons bundled together in the PNS. So both of them are involved in. So again, tracks are only axons, but nerves are both sensory and motor axons bundled together. Okay. In the PNS. Okay. So nerves are both both of that, but those are axons only. Tracks consist of axons. So tracks they are both transmitting signals in nervous system. They're both composed of bundles of axons, and both are critical for proper functioning of nervous system and homeostasis in the body. Okay. Okay, let's get back here. Um, 4. So that was about tracts and nerves. What we got wrong. One of the 3 questions that we got wrong for this chapter. So nerves are seen in CNS. That's wrong. Tracts PNS wrong. Nerves cell bodies in nuclei. Tracts have cell bodies in ganglia. Okay, we also need to know what's up with ganglia and nuclei. So nerves contain multiple information, sensory, motor, but tracts are collections of neurons in CNS and contain only one type of information. They contain cell bodies in nuclei. Okay. We honestly need a good picture for these. These are different tracts. Nerves versus tracts. Dorsal roots, ventral roots, dorsal root ganglion. Okay. So nerves have it in the ganglia, have their cell bodies in ganglia. Right? Nice. And where's the nuclei? Where the hell is nuclei? So both the somatic division and autonomic division are in the ventral root, but the dorsal root has only the sensor information. This is actually a good image, so we're gonna put it for our thingy here. So we don't need that. And we also have tracts are collections of axons, and again PNS or CNS, and contain okay, wait a second, containing nerves, tracts, CNS, only one type of info, cell bodies, and have cell bodies in ganglia, or is it ganglia or what's the name? Nuclei. And cell bodies in, so for nerves it's in ganglia, so it's in nuclei. Okay. Anything else? And the only thing that's left is where is the freaking where is the freaking nuclei? I need a picture of the nuclei. So on the corticospinal tract, it's going down. And we have also this thing, the optical nerve is attached to the eyes, closer to, surroundings. And then deep inside the brain, that's where the crossing over takes place. You have the optic chiasmata, the chiasma, and we also have chiasmata in the chromosomes. You remember? That's the location where the homologous chromosomes are crossing over. And yeah, so then you have also the optic tract. That's both right side of both eyes. The right side of both eyes go to the right hemisphere of the brain, and left side of both eyes go to the left hemisphere of the brain. This is pretty interesting. And so before the chiasma, optic chiasma, it's nerves, and after it is tracts. And spinal tracts, ascending is sensory info, descending is motor info. We had it there. And so there was a nerve in tract thing. So let me okay, just okay, let's okay, maybe this one. Tracts and sinus, no coverings. Individual nerve fiber, nerves, connective tissue, stabilizes. It says no coverings here, but they have myelin sheets. I don't know why, but I get this feeling of medical information not being on the same page at all. Ventral nuclei in thalamus. So nuclei are in the spinal cord. Golgi tendon organ. Nuclei versus ganglia. Okay, visceral sensory nuclei, and we have the dorsal root ganglion. Okay. This should suffice for now. Okay. let's continue. Oh, not this again, please. I beg you. When a sensory neuron receives a stimulus that brings it to threshold, it will do all of the following except become depolarized, transduce the stimulus to an action potential. Oh, sensory afferent from dorsal let's quit this maybe. Where are we? Sensory neurons are considered afferent, carrying signals from the periphery to the central nervous system and to the spinal cord on the dorsal side from the back door. Great. Motor neurons are considered afferent, carrying signals from the central nervous system and exit the spinal cord on the ventral side. When a sensory neuron receives a signal that is strong enough to bring it to threshold, one can assume that the receptor becomes depolarized. When a sensory neuron receives a signal that is strong enough to bring it to threshold, one can assume that the receptor becomes depolarized, allowing it to transduce the stimulus to an action potential. The action potential will then be carried by sensory neurons to the central nervous system, where the cell will release neurotransmitters. So the action potential will be carried by the sensory neuron to CNS, and in the CNS the neurotransmitters are released. Therefore, among the given choices, the only incorrect statement is found in C. Let's see. So we have question 6, right? We answered incorrectly. So 5 we answered correctly, yes. But let's look at, we put D, but the answer is C. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's just mark it here. 5. This is 6. When the sensory neuron receives a stimulus that brings it to threshold, it will do all the following except become depolarized, transduce the stimulus to an action potential, inhibit the spread of the action potential to other sensory neurons, cause the release of neurotransmitter onto cells in the CNS. So inhibit the spread of action potential to other sensory neurons. That's what is incorrect. So it will actually cause the release of neurotransmitters onto cells in CNS. So it does actually spread its action potential to other sensory neurons. It does not inhibit it. If a receptor is stimulated, it will promote the spread of action potential to the postsynaptic sensory neurons in the spinal cord, which can send a signal toward the brain. Okay, so the postsynaptic neuron in the spinal cord is a sensory neuron. And what else? Let's look at this again. The action potential will then be, so when a sensory neuron receives a signal that is strong enough to bring it to threshold, one can assume that the receptor becomes depolarized, allowing it to transduce the stimulus to an action potential. The action potential will then be carried by sensory neurons to the central nervous system. It's sensory neurons, not a sensory neuron, or like one sensory neuron to the interneuron, so it's sensory neurons, where the cell will release neurotransmitters. So there, the cell in the CNS releases neurotransmitters. So the sensory neuron causes the release of neurotransmitter onto cells in CNS. Cool. Cool. Question 7. This is the second question I got wrong. 7. So here we have takeaway. Takeaway is that sensory neurons do spread action potentials to other sensory neurons. Another one is that sensory neurons or afferent neurons cause release of neurotransmitters on neurotransmitters to cells in CNS. Okay. No, not this again. Please. Please, I beg you. Don't glitch on me. Oh, please, I beg you. Don't glitch on me. Oh, I beg you. I was thinking if I should put these questions as flashcards, or just mark them, red inside the book, because I'm having all this glitching that I don't like. So perhaps that's something that I would do. When the potential across the axon membrane is more negative than the normal resting potential, the neuron is referred to as hyperpolarized. Hyperpolarization occurs right after the action potential and is caused by excess potassium exiting the neuron. Amazing. Then we have next question. I think this is the third and last question we answered incorrectly. Yes, we chose C. Was D. So 7, 8. Which of the following statements concerning the somatic division of the peripheral nervous system is incorrect? Its pathways innervate. Some of its pathways are referred to. So between C and D, we chose the reflex arc. With D, its pathways always involve more than 2 neurons. That's incorrect. The somatic division of the peripheral nervous system innervates skeletal muscle and is responsible for voluntary movement. Amazing, yes. Some of the pathways in this part of the nervous system are reflex arcs, which are reflexive responses to certain stimuli that involve only a sensory and motor neuron. These neurons synapse in the spinal cord and do not require signaling from the brain. The pathways of the somatic division can involve 2, 3, or more neurons depending on the type of signal. So D, which says its pathways always involve more than 2 neurons. 2 neurons only, always involves more than 2 neurons. It could be 2, 3, 4. So its pathways, the pathways of the somatic division can involve 2, 3, or more neurons, depending on the type of signal. So some of the pathways in this part of the nervous system are reflex arcs. Okay. So these are the things that we can do, make a flashcard out of. The somatic division of the peripheral nervous system innervates skeletal muscles. That is what we want to, responsible for voluntary movement. Some of the pathways in this muscle, some, not all of the pathways, are reflex arcs, which are reflexive responses to sensory stimuli. They involve only a sensory. The only part. These neurons synapse in the spinal cord. Do not require signaling from the brain. They do not require signaling from the brain. And do or do not require signaling from the brain. These are like 1 and 2. Pathways of the somatic division can involve how many neurons? 2, 3, or more, depending on the type of signal. Depending on the type, on what? Depending on. Okay, next question. 9. The rest is correct. So let's just read through it, and if we find any takeaways, we just mark it. The parasympathetic nervous system governs the rest and digest. Parasympathetic nervous system slows heart, decreases blood pressure, promotes blood flow to GI tract, constricts the pupils, among other functions. Sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, increase heart rate, blood pressure, decrease blood flow to digestive tract, increase blood flow to muscles. D is the only answer. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter released by preganglionic neuron in both sympathetic. So we have acetylcholine. Let's highlight these. Motherfucker. Acetylcholine. Let's highlight the second one if there is released by preganglionic neuron. In both sympathetic. both sympathetic and parasympathetic. So if acetylcholine is blank, what is the neurotransmitter released by preganglion neuron in both? Then we want the postganglion neuron in the sympathetic nervous system usually releases, so postganglionic releases norepinephrine, while the postganglion neuron in the parasympathetic releases acetylcholine. So in sympathetic, if that's, this is so it should be there, while the postganglionic, so again, if this is like the third thing. There's 3 factors in this one, right? You have postganglionic and preganglionic. Okay, it's making sense now. So we should categorize. So this should turn green. This should turn yellow. This should turn sympathetic blue. Okay, great. Neurons contain very specialized structures, including dendrites, axons, and axon hillock. However, neurons are still cells and must carry out cellular functions, including protein synthesis. The cell body or soma contains the nucleus, endoplasmic reticulum, and ribosomes. Amazing. Now we get the glitch. Maybe we can close the Anki or something else. Okay. Yes, it's there. So soma contains nucleus, endoplasmic, and ribosomes. Yeah, it's pretty easy. So any neurons we can add before that. But first, consider the function of voltage-gated calcium channels. When the nerve terminal depolarizes, voltage-gated calcium channels open, allowing for influx of calcium. This influx of calcium triggers fusion of the synaptic vesicles containing neurotransmitters with the membrane of the neuron at the nerve terminal. This allows for exocytosis. Of the neurotransmitters into the synapse. If a disease blocked the influx of calcium, there would be no release of neurotransmitters. A lack of neurotransmitters means that the neuron cannot send excitatory signals. Thus, any symptoms resulting from disease would be due to inability of neurons to transmit excitatory signals to the muscles. If neurons cannot communicate, flaccid paralysis may be one of the results. Some neurons require multiple instances of excitatory transmission to be brought to threshold. These excitatory signals may be close to each other in the time, temporal or spatial. Either way, this is summation. Schwann cells are responsible for myelination of cells in the peripheral nervous system. Thus, the central nervous system is unlikely to be affected. The PNS includes somatic and autonomic divisions. The autonomic is composed of both parasympathetic. The dorsal root ganglion contains cell bodies of sensory neurons only. So dorsal root cell bodies of sensory, yes. And if a dorsal root ganglion is disrupted at a certain level, there will be a loss of sensation at that level. So Furthermore, reflexes rely on sensory afferents that are part of the reflexes rely on sensory afferents that are part of the dorsal root ganglia. As a result, reflex action will also be affected. Dorsal root ganglia contains cell of sensory neurons only. Cell bodies of sensory neurons only. Okay, nice. We're done with this chapter. I'll take a quick break and go to chapter 5 immediately. Cheers.